The mountains echoed still with the cheers of victory. Smoke from the battle had long cleared, and the dwarves of Carrick-Dun stood tall once more. Their ancient halls, once darkened by the shadow of the Dwarf lords and their black-hearted armies, now blazed with light, life, and song. At the heart of it all stood Zara. Once a mere traveler from the lowlands, now queen under the mountain, Zara of the Wild Flame had become legend in the eyes of the dwarves. Her sword had struck down the horned serpent. Her cunning had turned the tide when all seemed lost. Her heart, unyielding, bright, had become the new jewel of Carrick-Dun. But peace, as ever in the world's deep places, is rarely a permanent guest. It began with dreams. Zara, now clad in silver and storm blue, would wake in the night with visions of deep caverns calling her name. She saw an ancient stone throne cracked in half, buried beneath rivers of glowing moss. Voices, no longer the hearty voices of her dwarven kin, spoke in riddles from the dark. The forge is not yet cooled. The fire sleeps, but it dreams. The eldest dwarf seer, Mother Tharna, listened closely. There are older things beneath these mountains than the Dwarf lords, she murmured. And not all of them were defeated. Zara summoned the Council of Hammers, the 12 greatest dwarven lords and craftmasters. They argued, as dwarves often do, with thunderous voices and clashing beards, but in the end they agreed. If the darkness was not yet gone, it must be found and faced. For no crown sat easy on a queen who ruled above an unknown doom. Zara chose a small company, none of the grand armies. Instead, she walked with only the boldest and wisest: Balric, the smith-turned-warrior who had forged her blade; Olin, a silent rune mage; young Mira, a girl born of humans and dwarves alike; and 3 Stoneguard veterans whose axes had already tasted the blood of 10,000 foes. They journeyed deeper than any dwarf had gone in 1,000 years. Down past the vaults of the ancient, past the endless bridge of Durgan's steel, into the molten veins of the world, where even light dared not follow. And there they found it. At the very bottom of the mountain was an impossible sight, a city of obsidian towers and shattered domes, far older than Carrick-Dun. A city built by dwarves, yes, but not any known to song or stone record. Here the earth whispered in tongues that made the runes shiver. Here the shadows moved with memory. And here Zara saw the truth. The war they had won had only been a gatekeeper's battle. The true enemy, the dreaming deep, was awakening. It was not a beast, not a god, but a mind. A great and ancient will that had slept while mortals bled and kingdoms fell. And now it stirred. Olin cast runes of warding. Balric raised his hammer. Mira wept from the sheer weight of it. But Zara stood unmoved. She stepped forward, hand on the hilt of her blade, and spoke words no dwarf had dared speak in thousands of years. I am queen of the mountain. I do not kneel. The deep answered not with words, but with fire, flames of thought, a storm of memory. The minds of Zara and her companions were cast into visions of the first dwarves, hammering out worlds from stardust, of betrayal and broken oaths, of a god of flame chained in the mountain's belly, still dreaming of freedom and revenge. Zara fell to her knees, not in surrender, but in agony. And then Mira stepped forward, blood of 2 peoples in her veins, and sang a song none knew she remembered, a lullaby of the first forge, a tune sung by mothers of old when the fires were first lit. The dreaming deep paused, as if it too remembered that song. In that moment of stillness, Zara rose again. Blade in hand, eyes aflame, she struck, not the entity, but the ancient chain that bound it. Not to free it, but to bind it properly, to put its power under the mountain's will, not its whim. With Balric's hammer, Olin's runes, Mira's voice, and the hearts of the Stoneguard, they reforged the bond between Carrick-Dun and the fire at its heart. They did not destroy the dreaming deep. They tamed it. When Zara and her companions emerged from the depths, they were changed. Olin's hair had turned silver-white. Mira's voice now carried the resonance of deep stone. Balric could forge steel with a touch. And Zara? Her crown now bore a second gem, a glowing ember of the deep fire itself, set beside the original sapphire of Carrick Dun. She was no longer just queen. She was fire-bearer, and under her reign, the mountain prospered as never before. Trade flowed, the forges blazed, and the halls of the dwarves rang with life once more. But all knew, in quiet respect, that their queen had faced not just battle, but the soul of the mountain itself. And she had won. Peace held for 7 years. Under Zara Firebearer, Carrick Dun became a beacon of strength and artistry. Stone shapers carved new halls. Deep-forged steel flowed to distant kingdoms in trade. Even the sky folk of the frosted spires bowed in respect to the dwarves who had tamed fire beneath the earth. But peace is not stillness. It stirs the eye of envy. And far to the east, past deserts where even maps forget to look, the eyes of a forgotten empire turned westward. From the scorched dominion came word of a conqueror, Empress Naali, she who burns. Clad in crimson silk and scale, her armies had marched through cities untouched for centuries. She sought not just conquest, but something lost. When her emissaries came to Carrick Dun, they bore strange artifacts and spoke in riddles. "Your queen holds a flame that does not belong to her," the ambassador said, cloaked in flame-colored robes. "Our mistress dreams of unity. Return the ember of the deep, or we shall come for it." Zara stood upon the gates of the mountain, and gave her answer. Let her come, and burn her hands upon it. But Zara felt the ember stir on her brow. The deep fire, tamed but never extinguished, pulsed with unease. Because it remembered her. Whispers stirred through the underhalls. Mira, now high voice of the runes, brought ancient scrolls from the sealed libraries. There were stories older than dwarves, older than stone. Stories of a flame-born child carried from the east before the world cracked open. Zara confronted Tharna, now the last of the stone seers. "You told me I was a traveler," Zara said. "You were," the seer answered. "But you were also a spark." As a baby, Zara had been found at the threshold of Carrick Dun, wrapped in silk scorched at the edges. She had no memory of this, only the dreams, the heat in her blood, and the fire that always seemed to listen. She was not just crowned by dwarves. She had been hidden by them. And the scorched dominion had not forgotten. They came not with swords, but with dragons. The sky turned red. The first of Naali's flame WRMS descended on Carrick Dun, spewing alchemical fire that cracked stone and boiled rivers. The dwarves fought back with ballistae and fireproofed steel, their defenses stronger than the world believed. But it was Zara they wanted. Not the crown. Not the mountain. Her. The Empress sent a message, carried by fire across the sky. "You are my blood, flame child. Return. Or I will take you, crown and soul." Zara stood on the high tower of the Hall of Echoes, and for the first time, her heart wavered. Balric urged caution. Mira begged her to stay. But the ember on her crown burned hotter each day. Something in her soul was answering the Empress's call, not in loyalty, but in kinship. So she made a choice. Under cover of mountain fog and thunder, Zara left Carrick Dun alone. No army. No escort. She crossed the ash plains. She faced wind spirits, fire djinn, and the ruined cities of her unknowable past. And at last, in the heart of the blackened capital of the Dominion, she came face to face with Empress Naali. She was tall, ageless, draped in molten gold and sorrow. Her eyes burned like Zara's, and her voice held the weight of lifetimes. "You are the ember they stole from me," she said. "Born from the well of fire. You were to be my heir, my fire-born daughter. But they took you and raised you in stone." Zara stood in silence, then answered. "Stone raised me. Fire forged me. I am of both. And I am no one's heir." The Empress smiled sadly and attacked. Their battle tore the sky open. Fire met fire. Blood met blood. The deep fire within Zara rose in fury, not to consume, but to protect. In the end, it was not strength that saved her. It was balance. Zara used the rune songs Mira had taught her, the mountain's calm to cool the fire. She bound the Empress, not in death but in silence,